What's up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the Wise Take NFL DraftKings Week 9 first look. This is our first look at the slate. Obviously, a lot of things are going to change. A lot of things have already changed. We know the trade deadline is approaching pretty rapidly. We know there's been a couple trades that we're going to have to keep in mind as we do this first look and look for the different salaries. So we're going to go through here as we always do. I'm looking to follow up on another big week. 4x to my money. I think I risked like around 400, one back around 18 or so. Maybe it was 17, something like that. Anyway, it was a good week for the nation yet again. So make sure if you're not already a member, you go check us out at wisetake.com. For more of that fire DFS content, I do post the DraftKings cash article. I also do my own GPP notes article in addition to Paulie D's GPP article, the Wise stream, the cheat sheets that Cam does. Patio Joe covers FanDuel cash games for us. We have a lot of great content. The expert poll is a really awesome thing. A lot of great premium content that we offer over at Wise Take. In the meantime, this video is free and it always will be. It's just a matter of it being kind of early. So I do this video to try to get you guys to start thinking about how you want to attack the slate, kind of look at the different positions, consider certain things like position scarcity, all different kinds of things. Obviously, it is Tuesday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern, so things are going to change. Things have already changed, as I mentioned, and they're going to continue to change. So these are all things we're going to have to monitor. This is a video that I like to do, again, just to get you guys thinking and understanding how to approach the slate so that when something changes, you know what needs to be changed, or you know what exactly that means in context to DraftKings or FanDuel. So I got the chat pulled up, guys, on YouTube. Those of you that are watching on Facebook and all that, I appreciate you, but the YouTube chat is the one I'm going to be focusing on today. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dig right in. Real quick, before I do that, just going to remind you guys, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Make sure you hit the like button. We appreciate that. It goes a long way with us, showing us our support so we can continue to do free videos for you. We do a lot of awesome free content right on this channel. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And of course, don't forget to follow the Wise Take Twitter at Wise_Take to get any kind of promo codes we offer, any kind of discounts we offer, come through there. Also, a lot of real cool things we do. Like we got a lot of our guys do their play of the day, Twitter play of the day, where they give out a free pick or so on Twitter in regards to a player, honestly, whether it's NBA, NFL, even college football, they do it from time to time. So make sure you're following that for the goodness. Without further ado, let's go ahead and break this down. Let's pull up DraftKings real quick. So quarterback is fairly deep. There's a lot of different ways we can go. Patrick Mahomes up top, a little expensive for a cash game, but it's never really a bad idea to go with Patrick Mahomes in any format. Just your floor is what, 20? That was against Jacksonville, the best defense in the league, and then you have a ceiling of 41. But in all honesty, I don't even know if we've seen his ceiling yet. I would think 41. 6 touchdowns in a game is a lot. But you can see here 3 straight games with over 4 touchdowns, throwing over 300 yards in every game but one. His first game of the season is the only one he didn't break 300. So Mahomes is obviously a fine tournament option, and in cash games it could be tough to reach him. It's going to depend on what value opens up, if any. Cam Newton's in a phenomenal spot. We like to attack Tampa Bay with the pass game, with the run game. Their defense overall is terrible. And Cam Newton, while he hasn't been throwing for 300 yards that often, does have rushing upside. You can see 10 rushes against Baltimore, 7 against Philly, 9 against Washington. He's going to run the ball and get you a solid floor. That's the benefit of rushing quarterbacks, is their floor is typically a little bit higher than the usual. And we know he's going to be able to pass here. He's going to have a ton of options. Last week, they played a tough defense in the Ravens, so they leaned on McCaffrey, they leaned on DJ Moore, all these kind of guys. But this week's a little bit different. The Tampa Bay Bucks aren't going to have one of those dudes. So we're going to see Cam be able to use all of his weapons. We have Olsen, we've got Morgan, we've got Funchess, who's going to have a much better matchup this week, and of course Christian McCaffrey, who Cam likes to throw to a lot. Definitely in playing quarterbacks. Deshaun Watson at Denver, a little more risky, but we know there's upside there. Cousins against Detroit. Cousins is at home. I don't hate this matchup. A couple good corners, but I really don't hate this matchup at all. Drew Brees and Jared Goff. That's going to be, I think, where we see a lot of ownership this week. Drew Brees at home, only 6-1 on DraftKings. The floor is low because their rushing game is back. They're back to the double-headed monster of Ingram and, of course, Kamara. However, we do know that Brees is known for his home and road splits. We saw against Washington, they did have both guys. Brees still threw for 3 touchdowns and still put up 30 points. The Rams defense is supposed to be pretty good. I haven't been overly impressed with them, especially against good quarterbacks, and especially on the road on the fast track. So I think Drew Brees is a great tournament option. He's cheap enough for cash. Like, it sounds like a steal to pay 6-1 and get Drew Brees in a cash game, but we got to keep in mind, I know the games have been on the road as bad games, but we got to keep in mind that they do have those running backs back, and they could resort to that game, that grounded pound type of style. Either way, I think Breeze is definitely in play in tournaments. Jared Goff, another one, also in play. Threw 35 times against Green Bay. As long as the game's close, which I would anticipate this game will, it should be a really good game, even to watch. Even Goff, look, he's rushing a little bit, 5-3, 4-5. He's not getting a ton of yards, but helps a little bit. Obviously, Todd Gurley, it comes into play. He's the top running back once again this week. He's been just doing incredible things on the field. The good thing about Goff is you can pair him with Gurley. Gurley is getting 5-6 targets a game, so you can do the pairing, at least in tournaments, of Goff and Gurley together. I'm not totally opposed to it in cash either, but at 6K, Jared Goff just seems way too cheap yet again. Another guy, again, we've seen one game where his floor was kind of really low, and we've seen games where his upside is massive, like the 5-touchdown game against Minnesota. That was, of course, at home. So those are definitely options that we got to keep in mind. If we scroll down a little more, Mayfield against Kansas City, kind of tough. Like, the guy's just not showing us any type of ceiling. The offense is struggling. They have a great matchup against Kansas City, especially being that they're at home. If this game was in Kansas City, no way. But the fact that they're at home and there's a new coach coming in, we see sometimes teams get motivated whenever their coach is changed or whatever the case is. Sounded to me like Mayfield wasn't all that upset when the head coach got fired. So these are all things to consider. Phillip Rivers in Seattle, that's kind of interesting. Obviously, they've been leaning on Melvin Gordon quite a bit. Rivers really hasn't been throwing the ball a ton, at least not as much as we're used to. Anyway, you can see against San Francisco, 39, the Rams 30, game where he threw 51 against Kansas City, but it seems to be only when he's in a shootout, and Seattle is running the ball well, and they're running in a lot, which could kill some clock. Fitzpatrick, you can roll the dice with Fitzpatrick. He's supposed to be getting the start. This is GPP only because there is a possibility that if he throws X amount of picks, he gets benched for Jameis. They're going to be playing that flip-flop game. I will say, considering how little Fitzpatrick played, the fact that he put up a 19 was pretty impressive. So I do think Fitzpatrick is in play in tournaments because that game in general is just a place that I think I want to go to. One other guy I'll talk about here is Alex Smith. Probably won't play him, just a ceiling thing, upside thing. But I do like this game. I like the Washington offense. I think I'm going to use like pieces of their offense without Alex Smith and just kind of get my exposure to him that way. I'm just not a big Alex Smith guy, and he just never really shows the ceiling. You can look at the yardage. Like, the dude has a hard time breaking 200 yards, let alone 300. So I heard some people ask me about. I heard some people mention Alex Smith because of his price, and I think there's too many good quarterbacks, and I think we can still get a piece of his offense without actually playing him. So for this example, let's start off. We can either start off with Cam or the Breeze Goff combo. I think for now, I really want Cam, and I think he's great, but we can get a $600 savings going with Jared Goff. So I think for now, I'm going to go with Jared Goff. Again, this is like not really a cash, not really trying to. I'm just building a lineup and just kind of seeing where we're at. So if we have Goff, Gurley is definitely still attractive, right? I know that some people are going to say they don't correlate, but the bottom line is Gurley is still getting 7, 5, 5, 5, 6, 6, 6. Like, he's getting a lot of targets each game. He's putting up monstrous numbers. Last week was a week where had Gurley scored that last touchdown that screwed over a lot of people in the gambling industry, he would have really, really, like, you come to a point where if you didn't have Gurley, you'd be in trouble. But aside from that, like, there's been weeks like against San Francisco, the 30 was great. But to me, it comes down to position scarcity. It was easier for me to be underweight on Gurley because there were so many options. This week, you're going to have to interpret it differently. It's not necessarily the same. So Gurley at the top, great. Melvin Gordon, 8-2 at Seattle. He's been phenomenal, has massive upside, but he is going to be on the road, and he is going to be playing Seattle. I think it's okay, but it's not nearly as much of a slam dunk as like Connor and Mixon and even Hunt and the guys that were in really good spots. The first guy that pops into everybody's mind is Christian McCaffrey, I think. We know the targets are there, 6'6", 8'6". Got 14 carries against Baltimore. This is going to be the game that we want to attack them through the pass game. And McCaffrey, even though he's a running back, is perfectly fine with that because he does have a lot of high involvement in the pass game. He's only 7'8". He seems to be one of the guys that are just the most appealing to start. If we go through the rest, Alvin Kamara is going to be playing that game with Ingram. 7'3" is a really good price for Kamara, but he's going to be playing the game with Ingram. We don't know who's going to get the run. Ingram is only 5K, I know that. So these are all things we have to think of in the back of our mind. Kareem Hunt is on the road against Cleveland. If they get ahead, he should get plenty of touches. I like the fact that he's been getting involved in the pass game. It's bringing back his value. So 6, 6, 6, 3 games in a row with at least 6 targets in the pass game. You compound that with double-digit rushing attempts, and you're back on track. You're in a pretty good spot. So I think Hunt is also interesting. But again, not as much of a slam dunk. We liked him better at home. It was just a much better slam dunk. So let's see what else we got. Adrian Peterson coming off a phenomenal game, right? Against the Giants. 26 rushing attempts. Didn't get targets. It's not his game. And we want to attack Atlanta. We can attack Atlanta with regular running backs, but we particularly want pass-catching running backs. AP is 6K, so I'm okay with it, but it's going to really depend if this guy plays or not. If Thompson plays, he's got the best matchup. He's the one that's going to get the targets. He re-injured the other side of his abdomen, like his ribs. He already had issues with his ribs, and then I think the other side he hurt in that last game. So if he plays, this is a phenomenal matchup. This is GPP only, obviously, but it's a phenomenal matchup against Atlanta, who we love to take pass-catching running backs against. Really, I'm cool with running backs in general. So I do think that AP and these guys are fine. But again, like none of these are a slam dunk as like James Conner against Cleveland last week at home. With that said, I do think Kareem Hunt is appealing. I have Goff in here, so that gives me the potential of reaching some Gurley without having to play Gurley, because if Goff throws Gurley a touchdown, at least I'm getting something there. So I think Gurley, if we can fit him, is great, but it's going to be tough to fit him. I can tell you that already. Let's plug in Gurley. Let's find us a cheap defense to just kind of throw in here. We'll go with the Jets because they're 25. We're just throwing a defense in there, guys. Let's see what we're looking at tight end. That's a pretty big deal. I think that Kelsey up top is very expensive. I'm always down to play Kelsey because he has massive target potential. They're going to be on the road. Maybe they lean on him a little bit more. It's Cleveland. Really not terrified of them. They're not as bad as they were last year against tight ends, but I'm not exactly afraid to take one of the best tight ends in the league against them. Jordan Reed is very interesting. He had 12 targets against the Giants, and I don't think that we can count on that. It's still Alex Smith throwing it to him, and he's 4-8. But as far as matchup goes, if we think there's going to be a lot of scoring, if we want exposure to this offense without having to take Alex Smith, I think Jordan Reed could be a way to go. We know that Alex Smith is captain check down, and that's Atlanta's weakness, guys who check down constantly. So I do think Reed is certainly an option. 4.8 is a little expensive. Don't know if we can make that work, but we can certainly look. Tight end is weak this week, guys. So you got Hooper at 3.8 on the road. The 10 and 12 target games, I don't think we can count on that. I'm a little worried about that. So I think like the 4 targets is more where we're in range with. So at 3.8, I don't mind it, but I'm not overly excited about it. Greg Olsen, I know I skipped over him a little bit. This is an interesting matchup for him. This is one of the matchups that Austin Hooper crushed in against Tampa. We know that their secondary is terrible from every aspect. We have Funches, DJ Moore, we have McCaffrey, but we also have Olsen. Olsen's not seeing the volume that he used to see from his boy Cam, but as we can see, since coming back from injury, 7, 5, and 4 targets. Should get a lot of, maybe gets a lot of red zone work. The issue with him that I'm seeing is we need the touchdown for him to pay that off, and that worries me a little bit. Kyle Rudolph, definitely in play against Minnesota. 7 targets against New Orleans, 4, 5, 5 for 3.6. That seems like a pretty good deal, but you can see not a whole lot of yardage with that, and again, I think he's kind of touchdown dependent, but at 3.6, we can certainly take a shot. We can definitely see if there's anybody else we can punt with, but I know it's an ugly position overall. Herndon had 7 targets against Minnesota, only 2 targets against Chicago. So we don't actually know what the deal is. Just another example of inconsistency. Clay, terrible quarterback, very good defense, 5.6 targets for a guy that's 2.7. I think if you're looking for a straight up punt, you could make that work, but it may not be easy. Njoku burnt a lot of people last week. Didn't get any targets against Pittsburgh. I thought that was kind of, I didn't play him, and I still felt bad for the people who did, because I think that they should have been, it wasn't a bad spot. They just didn't get the ball. Maybe things are a little bit different here. You got to expect them to be trailing from Kansas City, so they're throwing a lot, and I think that we're going to see Mayfield kind of go back to this 12 to 10 targets, 7 targets, 6 targets at least. I think we'll see Njoku get more of his work, because he is a guy that they are trying to use in this offense, and hopefully whoever the new coach or offensive coordinators are, they understand that they have to incorporate this guy. But he is 4.6. For this example, I'll go with Reed. You can already see the money is getting real tight here. If I go with Gurley, Let's see if there's any value receivers, and then we'll see what we're left over with up top. So we need a guy that's probably cheaper than $48.50 to raise up what we have. DJ Moore is going to be popular this week, guys. 5 out of 6 targets, 90 yards. Didn't get a touchdown, but he did have 2 rushing attempts, and he's getting an opportunity to rush the ball, which is great. 4-3 is just really cheap in a phenomenal matchup. I'm sure that whatever other YouTube videos you watch, a lot of them are going to have DJ Moore in it, and it makes a lot of sense. He will be popular. We know that value receivers as chalk don't always come through, so that's something to keep in mind in tournaments. Maybe a pivot to Funches could be warranted. This is a much better matchup for Funches. Matter of fact, let's look at Funches real quick, who is 5'6". Only 3 targets, but he did have Jimmy Smith on him. 11 targets against Philly, 8 targets against Washington. So this is going to be something you have to figure out. If you're playing Cam, you could look at both, but we already have Christian McCaffrey here. So you don't want to have like 3 or 4 players, at least in a conservative contest. Maybe if you want to do an onslaught in tournaments, you can. It's Tampa. I'm not opposed to that. Tampa is one of the fastest teams in the league right now, which is giving Carolina extra opportunities. But Funches is definitely not something we want to ignore. For this example, let's just plug in Moore, because regardless of his last game, he didn't get any. He got 1 more target than he normally gets, but we've been seeing him being utilized fairly consistently, even with Greg Olsen back. So we'll go with Moore for this example. Let's see if we can find another cheap guy to kind of plug in here. Let's look and see what we have. Goodwin, you can run it back with. I'm totally fine with this. 7 targets against Cincinnati didn't really work out, but we know that Fitzpatrick will utilize him. We saw that through the first few weeks of the season, double-digit outings in his first 3 games of the season. So I think Goodwin at 4-4 is another guy that we can definitely look at. I'll probably roll with him, but let's just keep looking and see if anything else opens up. I'd love to play Doxson against Atlanta. Problem is Alex Smith is the quarterback, and he's got a problem throwing to his receivers. Traquan Smith in that Rams game, they're utilizing him a little bit more, but the floor is just a little too low, I think. But I guess we can say that about a bunch of people. Humphreys is more like 10 targets. That was awesome. A little bit more of, I think this is more Winston's guy, but nonetheless, 3-6 for a receiver if we were desperate enough. Obviously, not a cash game type play, but somebody that we can consider in tournaments if we really, really, really needed the value. So in the back of my mind, if we can't find what we're looking for, I know I could drop Gurley and find a different running back to roll with. Doesn't feel comfortable to do that, but there were a couple other options that we can consider. So I'm trying to see if we can fit Gurley in, but if we can't, it's not the end of the world. I think we go with Godwin for this example. For running backs, I think that with what we're left with, one of the better options we can take as far as upside, we have Nick Chubb we can look at 4-5. Who's getting 18 since he's been the starter, 18 carries. I like the fact that last week he got 3 targets. It's not great, but it's a little bit more, and he's only 4-5. 14 the first game would have been okay. Not glorious, but okay. 9.5, not really cutting it, but that was also on the road. We know running backs have a stronger correlation at home. So I do think that Nick Chubb is in play. Oh, I see in the chat. Yeah, that's a great point. I want that cat in the chat. Sutton should be popular as well. Yes, I do think that Sutton. Let's take a look at him. Sutton at 3.9, probably one of your cash game plays this week just because of how popular he's going to be. You don't want to get burned by him. If everybody else is playing Gurley because they played Sutton, you don't want to be the only guy who didn't and get burnt. But he's up in the depth chart, 3.9. That's a really good example. And in fact, if you wanted to plug him in and go 3 value receivers, running back picture doesn't leave you with much. We'd have to upgrade somebody. Maybe we take out Moore and see if we can get to Funches this way. And we can. So we could go at Funches, Godwin, go at Sutton. That was definitely a good call. Totally forgot about him, which, is not good. We're hoping his targets move up. We don't know for sure that they will, but we're hoping they move up. They're also playing Houston. So Houston's going to put some pressure on the quarterback Keenum. But at the same time, their secondary hasn't been that great. We've seen teams, we even seen the Giants go in there and slice these guys up, and Giants were on the road that game. So these are all things we should consider. I think Sutton is in play. I think also Emmanuel Sanders is a candidate if he's healthy to see an uptick in performance. So if we wanted to do something like this, we can plug in, if Thompson was healthy, we can go with Ingram too. I think Ingram is kind of the guy that we could look at. But again, Thompson, if he's going to get the targets, this is a great matchup for him. And you can see what we're working with here. So obviously Gurley is going to make it tough for us to get a true number 1 receiver. Funches is a number 1 receiver, but he's obviously priced a little cheaper than some of the other ones out there. So I think this lineup is fine for a tournament. I really do. We don't have a receiver with Goff, and I don't like that, but we have Gurley, so I guess that's okay. One thing we can consider is flopping this to Breeze and then trying to find a receiver to pair with Breeze. But why don't we do this? I'm going to keep Goff in there. I'm going to get rid of Gurley, right? This is going to open up some salary. Let's get rid of Funches. We've got Thompson in there. We've got some Godwin for some correlation. I think the guy this week for tournaments that is kind of interesting and should be kind of popular is Cooks, right? Everybody likes revenge. He might draw some Lattimore defense, so we got to keep that in mind. Cooper Kupp is back also, so that could take away, but it could be good. Maybe it spreads the field out a little bit more and gives Cooks more opportunity, because Cooks has been getting like 8 targets against Green Bay, only caught 3 of them. That's not efficient, and that's not what we're used to seeing from a guy like Cooks, who is normally pretty efficient. So for the correlation, we'll go here. That leaves us with, what, 84. I like to put running backs in the flex, although, not going to lie, some of these guys are kind of tempting. Brown, Hopkins up top. You know, looking at the wide receiver tier, looking up top. So Thielen, always a great play. I don't care what the matchup is. He's always a great play. The targets are just too much. Brown's going to have a tough matchup. Jimmy Smith on the road. Ben Roethlisberger not as good on the road. Hopkins going to be in Denver. Still fine. I'm not worried about anybody there, but there is some altitude. Evans against Carolina, that seems like a pretty reasonable spot. The only thing is, I think I'd have more interest in Deshaun Jackson because of Fitzpatrick. He seems to do better with balls down the field to him. Let's see. So what we could do, what would happen if we went with like a Kamara to bring some correlation? I don't normally like to take running backs in the same game. So it's like, I'm more likely to play Gurley or Kamara or Ingram. Now, I'm probably not going to play both running backs in any kind of setting. Not enough to get up to Kelsey there. Of course, we can upgrade from Cooks. We can upgrade from Godwin. Let's see what we have at 5'6". Back to Funches. How much is the guy we were just talking about? Where the hell is he? It's got to be cheap. Deshaun Jackson's only 5K. That's not bad. 5K for Deshaun Jackson. We've got Sutton for some value. We've got some correlation with McCaffrey going. We've got Kamara. Looks like we can upgrade. We can either upgrade the defense, which is probably something we may want to do. The Jets defense isn't terrible, I guess, but or we can just simply come up and play AP, right? Then we have McCaffrey, AP, Kamara. This is not like a cash game lineup by any means. I think you make Gurley work if you can in cash. And I think there's other running backs who are more cash. I think McCaffrey's fine in cash. But like Kamara, I don't think is a cash play because he's sharing time with Ingram. And Ingram's only 5K. But this is just an example, guys. Just a first look lineup. I could have went with a variety of quarterbacks, and like that would have taken us through a different path. I'm going to tell you guys again, like how I normally like to do things. I like to find my core. I'm really big on having a core. I've been successful with that so far this year. I'm not a guy that does 150 lineups every week. I mean, there's times where I will throw in a bunch, like an MME something, when I feel like I have extra time to prepare, if I really, really like a slate for tournaments, or even if I like a slate more so for cash, so I can get my exposure to tournaments that way. But, you know, this is just a first look build just to kind of see what we can come up with. And there's a lot of good plays this week. We got to see what else opens up. Things are going to change. Things are definitely going to change, but we'll have to see what opens up. I'm sure things will happen. The trade deadline is approaching quick, and then, of course, you have injuries to keep an eye on. There's a lot of different things to keep you busy in NFL. A lot of research involved in NFL. But what I like to do in tournaments, guys, is I'll build like 4 teams, 3, 4, 5 teams, somewhere in that range. And I try to keep a core. And I write the core in my article. Last week, my core was the Steelers defense, with Seth Roberts, who came through with a touchdown, and was James Conner, went for 40. A guy that I had a lot of exposure to that I should have added to my core and had 100% of was probably Kelsey. I had Kelsey in 2 out of 4. I wrote him up, but I didn't have him as a core play, and I probably should have made him a core play. Hindsight. Hindsight's always 20/20 though. But that's how I like to approach it, man. I like to find me a core. Sometimes it's 2 running backs. Sometimes it's 2 running backs and a receiver. Sometimes it's, you know, I find my favorite plays on the week, and I'm willing to commit on 2, 3, maybe even 4 guys or 4 rosters, we'll say, because last week it happened to be a defense that was too cheap. And I rotate them in with some of the studs. It's easier to rotate these different studs, right? It's easier for me to rotate Hopkins and ABs and all these kind of guys. It's not as easy to rotate, you know, like a value receiver, right? Usually there's like, out of a group of 5 value receivers, maybe only 1 or 2 will go off. So like those are the guys you want. Last week for me, Fitzgerald was another one that I had a lot of exposure to that ended up coming through for me big. So that's how I approach it, guys. Again, you'll find more information. This is just the first look. I don't want nobody going crazy with this first lineup. Some of this stuff might change. We'll see what happens. This is just a first look lineup just to get everybody thinking, looking at roster construction together, in different ways you can go. Aside from that, guys, if you check us out at wisetape.com for more content, man. By Saturday, I'll have my NFL GPP notes article out with my core and what I'm doing in tournaments. I'll have my NFL cash game breakdown out for DraftKings. Patio Joe covering FanDuel cash games. He'll have his out by Saturday. Cam on the cheat sheets. Paulie D is going to do his tournament article, which is usually ready by Sunday morning, the latest. And of course, the Y stream, man. The Cash and Paulie been doing a phenomenal job on Saturdays, breaking down these slates for our members. Just doing awesome stuff. We have plenty of content for you guys. Come over, come check it out if you're not a member already. And if you are, we'll catch you around the Slack. You guys will see the articles. We'll talk to you guys in the Slack chat. Real quick, guys, the Slack chat is only for members with monthly plans or higher, so I recommend you follow us again on Twitter at @wise_take. This way you can take advantage of any promos that we run. We do contests, we do promo codes, things like that to get you guys a deal. And again, we do contests where we actually give away a week of all access sports or whatever the case is. So make sure you're watching, make sure you keep in touch, touching base with us. Again, guys, you can find me on Twitter at CK_013. I do my best to keep everybody informed. If I think there's a useful tweet, I'll tweet it out there for you guys, whatever the case is. But that's going to do it for me here. Appreciate y'all rocking with me, those of you that did. I know that NBA is the hot topic right now. We're smashing NBA over at Wise Take. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. And if you're watching on any other platform, we try to stream the free shows on every platform we're on, but YouTube is probably the best place to come to whenever we do a show. Get notified whenever we do one. We got NBA Wise Stream coming up in a couple hours. Got some research to break down. Aside from that, guys, I'm going to get up out of here. Those of you who are subscribed to us, we'll catch you around the Slack, catch you around for NBA, everything else. Appreciate you watching. Hit the like button, it means a lot. If you're on Facebook, give us a like and a share. If you're on Twitch or Twitter, give us a follow and a retweet. And if you're listening to us on anything else, give us some reviews, man. All these things really help us out and go a long way with it. So for myself, the entire Wise Take Nation, as always, guys, good luck.
Yeah.